What's up?
All right. I think I'm about ready to go live. Are you about ready?
I'm about ready.
Here, hold on. Let me turn this music off for a second. I'm almost ready to go. All I really do is just have to hit the confirm and go. I probably need to make sure I have enough water. I drink a lot of water on these shows.
It's all good.
Hold on a second. Roast. That's fucking hilarious. Yeah. Well, all right. I want to make sure. Okay.
What's up to everybody on YouTube? We're about to get started here in just a minute. Appreciate all y'all for tuning in.
Oh, we're live on YouTube, huh?
Yeah, I couldn't find out how to connect it, through this to that, so.
Yeah. It's all right. All right, I think I'm about ready to get started here too, so I am going to go live as well. Give me one moment.
All right. What's up? Peace.
Welcome, everybody, to the Magistry podcast, Demystifying the Mystical for a New Kind of Magician. Today, I'm talking about the Goetia and magic with Travis Magus. You guys have seen him on YouTube and probably are part of his group on Facebook. And today, oh, there's my wings. Okay, the music is gone, and now my wings are here. You guys can see them now. If you're wondering what this show is, and you probably haven't noticed it before, and you're like, I don't know what the Magistry is. Do you remember the Occult Arcade? Well, I totally changed the name, and now it's called this, so enjoy it. So anyways, all right. Well, hey, I'm here with Travis Magus. Travis, thank you very much for joining me here on the show today.
Peace. What's up?
Oh,
Pleasure to
man,
be here.
Dude, I'm so excited right now. I'm just going to wait a second while we wait for a couple of viewers to come in before we get into the meat and potatoes of things. But I'm super excited about this episode today, just because of the subject matter and you and your videos. I've seen those on YouTube, and you just, you know what, you've got, like, there's a lot of armchair magicians, but you actually do the things and you functionally understand what they really are because you do them instead of just talking about them. And I think that is the most exciting part of the whole thing.
Yeah. It gets pretty annoying because looking and researching through these videos, you can kind of tell who actually puts in the work and who just wants to look cool,
Mm-hmm. So how long have you been doing this? I know I asked you earlier, but, now we're live.
Yeah. I've been studying magic since about 99, I want to say. And really didn't kick it into high gear until about 2005, 2006. Yeah.
And how long have you been making videos on YouTube?
I've been doing this for about a year. And like I said, it didn't really gain traction until about a couple months ago. Shout out to Masterly Foolish and his channel for sharing my videos and bringing it to more people. I really appreciate that.
So So you gave a shout out to Masterfully Foolish. Is that what it was?
Yeah, the YouTube channel Masterly Foolish. He posts a lot of videos about similar topics from different people all over YouTube.
Oh, I'm gonna have to check that out. I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I've been watching this channel for a long time. Great stuff.
So what got you into, well, demons and Goetia and actually, like, you know, most people in our society don't, you know, do magic in the first place, but then you have, you know, people in society actually studying it and functionally practicing it. What got you into actually doing it?
I've always been very spiritual, and you know, I've recently discovered that it's been my personal daemon that's really been guiding me and speaking with me since I was a child. But you know, I guess I kind of gatewayed in through rock music, and I began to study the symbols. I really was big into Marilyn Manson back into the day, and in his autobiography, he talked about the Tetragrammaton and the Necronomicon and different things. So I just went on a book buying spree, and ever since I've just been studying and learning, and here we are.
That's so great that you mentioned that. I got into a giant Marilyn Manson kick just recently because I perform music and stuff. I do performance. So anyways, I was watching a lot of Marilyn Manson's videos just to kind of study him a little bit. And, you know, whenever I was younger, I didn't really realize how he embodied the spirit of, like, Lucifer in specific.
Yeah.
It's so, and it's to the point where it's like he's in a situation where people are being hateful to him, and he's supposed to be the bad guy, and he looks like he's supposed to be the bad guy by everybody's standards. But then he comes at them with intelligent things that they're not even thinking about,
right?
And just completely, you know, twists the perspective of the entire argument. And it's amazing how people are able to do that whenever they keep a level head, you know?
Yeah, that's another thing I really liked. He wasn't just playing into the stereotype of ooh, spooky and dark. There were actually things in the lyrics and in the imagery that, like I said, caused me to do research, at least, and I'm sure thousands of other people. Yeah, and that's what it is with the spirit. The subconscious mind, it really speaks through symbols, not so much words. So again, with the armchair magicians, you can really tell who's putting in the work, because you almost feel a vibe, or you hear certain things that you connect with, because that's spirit talking to spirit, you know?
Yeah. So the Goetia itself, what was the first demon that you ever conjured?
I had unsuccessful attempts for probably a year, but it was probably around just before I started doing my videos a year ago, September. In my area, we had a hurricane that was passing through, and it was supposed to be really, you know, dangerous and destructive. So I figured, you know, I know this and that about magic. Why don't I try summoning a spirit or something like that to protect my family? And I'm looking through different books, and I'm thinking, and pretty much a specific entity popped out to me, which was Furfur. I believe he's number 36. But Furfur deals with storms and you know, that nature of things. On top of that, every goetic spirit is categorized within certain days, and his days lined up exactly with when the hurricane was supposed to pass through. So I said, hey, that's confirmation. I evoked this entity, and long story short, my family and our household was protected. There was destruction everywhere else, but yeah, it was pretty amazing. So that kind of got me really confident in this.
So you came across a spirit, and then you found out that it was during that time period was his window.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, that's just how it works, you know. And there's a reason is his time period, because, you know, maybe that window to people, you know, way back when, that's the window wherever they needed him because of things like storms and stuff like that. You know, there's a reason that these things happen the way that they do, and the way that they're, you know, saved inside of our genetic memories, you know?
Yes, exactly. And I'm glad you mentioned genetic memories, because what I really aim to do with my videos is I want to just kind of demystify the whole thing and explain it in simple terms, because I believe that most everybody has access to these spirits. Not everybody, but most everybody. And I believe it has to do with genetics. If your ancestors did this work, it's in you already. You just have to bring it back out.
Yeah. Memories. I always talk to people about how memories are formed, because memories aren't like data on a hard drive. It's really these networks of sensory impressions inside of your head, so you get these sensory impressions like smells and, all of your senses, and then the thoughts and the feedback loops about the thoughts about those feelings and the ones you had before like them. And there's so many different feedback loops going on. And, so every time you think about something or remember something, you reinforce that memory and you change it just a little bit. So over time, you reinforce these things and you get these connections in your brain. And I think that if enough people in your genetic chain have the same kind of connection, I mean, that's got to be pretty strong as far as like forming archetypes and different things like that.
Yes, very much so. Archetypes, dealing with one of the Goetic kings here, actually, Beleth, he deals with a lot of charisma and being liked, I suppose. And in one of my meditations, he brought to me that everybody can potentially line up with a certain archetype. And it's almost as if the closer you align yourself with this archetype, the more spiritual energy that you have. So, yeah, it's kind of key that you mentioned that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a purer form of that, we have a lot of, we have our self, which is our underlying self. And it's kind of an unknowable thing because it's trapped behind a wall outside of our conscious thoughts.
Yeah.
And it speaks in symbols, like you were talking about earlier. And it can't speak in anything but symbols. And it doesn't have an opinion either way, but it kind of goes into terror mode sometimes because of things it detects.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of great whenever you can, summon a demon. It sounds so scary, but really you are communicating with this archetype inside of your head and kind of bringing it into focus and focusing it so it's not forming and manifesting in other parts of your life where it shouldn't be.
Right. I think what I really want people to understand, especially newcomers, is we're not dealing with scary monsters from hell. We're not dealing with these tentacled beings or horned fanged beings that are going to eat your soul and torture you. You're dealing with currents of energy, right? See, the human body it's like a crystal. You can focus energy into it. The mind is like a battery, right? And these spirits, like I said, are a current of energy. And when you have them flowing through you, they don't speak through words, all right? You feel the impressions of that vibration, of that energy. And because the conscious mind is so limited, we interpret it into words. But the reason the spirit realm speaks through symbols is because a picture is worth 1,000 words. A symbol can represent many different things, right? When you look at the symbol of the Ouroboros, it doesn't just mean the universe. It also means the alpha and omega, the beginning and the end. It means regeneration. It means all kinds of things, depending on the situation that you're dealing with.
Yeah. In that way, in the way that a symbol is able to have many different meanings, if you form that and if you think of a diagram in 3 dimensions, right? And you have like an idea in the middle and then every meaning that it could have coming off the sides.
Yeah.
Like that's a 3-dimensional object inside your mind. And you can start forming your reality with that, and that's the way that the unconscious mind works, is that it uses these things and it puts the puzzle pieces together in ways that we don't even understand, but we can use colors and scents and feelings, like different kind of fabrics on your skin and different lighting and just different things and different words to say and different trains of thought to go through, and you can actually wake these things up in your head and kind of focus in and really kind of take control of different parts of yourself and then your life.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yes, the subconscious mind is so powerful. Dealing with any magic, you gotta really, the whole point is making the bridge, the connection between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. right? Like you were saying,
That's magic.
You can apply different textures, different smells, different colors. Why does that work? The conscious mind is rooted in the third dimension. So all the conscious mind knows is the memories that you experience from your prior sights, smells, tastes, sounds, and touch, right? So when you intentionally put together an atmosphere for yourself to send a message to the subconscious mind, it makes it that much easier for the subconscious mind to receive it. And if you put an intent in the middle of that, it's a seed planted in the soil of the subconscious, and it begins to manifest.
Yes. And it's weird how it manifests. It doesn't manifest because it's not like a shoehorn. It doesn't force itself. I always tell people who watch my show, I say, the weirdest thing I think in this whole thing that kind of makes me think it might be a simulation in some way is that poem, Row, Row, Row Your Boat.
Yeah.
That song, Row, Row, Row Your Boat Gently Down the Stream.
Yeah.
It's so subtle, but it makes so much sense. You know what I mean? Like, it's the way that life goes. Magic is kind of like a current, and you have to row your boat gently, because if you thrash against it, you go into places you don't belong, and your life looks like it's where you need to be. This gentle flow of magic, this current that you can follow, and that's magic. You know what I mean? Yes.
Row your boat. Again, interesting that you said that. I was just reading book 4 by Aleister Crowley, and he actually has a section where he dissects a lot of the nursery rhymes and pulls out the metaphysical meaning behind a lot of them.
Wow.
And that was one of them.
I have not read that.
Book 4.
Book 4.
Yeah.
That's pretty great. Have actually, it kind of reminds me of that Chuck Palahniuk book. Have you ever read that Lullaby?
I've heard about some of the stories out of it.
Yeah. The story's about a book. It's got a culling song, which is like a magical spell used to take people over to the other side. So basically these people are reading this nursery rhyme to their children, and putting them, they're killing them, basically. So this guy has to go around the country with this witch, and they're looking for all the copies of these books before this other evil guy is able to kill all the babies or something like that. I don't know. But it's a pretty cool book, and it reminds me of, just the way that magic can affect people. I don't know.
Yeah. How a nursery rhyme can affect somebody like that. The idea of it.
Yes.
It's and you don't even have to consciously understand what's going on. As long as you know in your heart of hearts, as long as you know in your subconscious mind that what you're doing is going to work, that's all you need. Doubt is the biggest killer of all this. Now, I'm not saying have blind faith in the magic that you do, or just you're going to say this mantra and it's just going to work. The more that you understand consciously makes it easier for the subconscious mind to make it so.
Yeah, it's almost like, I don't know how much you have with tarot. Do you have any experience with tarot cards and reading things like that?
Yes.
But in tarot, there's a thing called a reversal, which is basically the card flipped upside down. So the top is at the bottom and the bottom's at the top. And it kind of negates the meaning, or it indicates an opposite meaning. So, whenever you're doing magic, any kind of a doubt sort of does the same sort of a thing. It kind of reverses your intention, whether you intend for that or not. So you can say that you want something a whole lot, or you can intend that you do. But if you have doubt, you're actually putting out the opposite of that into the universe.
Yes, and see, that has a lot to do with the whole concept of binding. When you're doing your spells, you want to bind certain energies. The reason being is because, like I said, these spirits are a current, and a current has a positive and a negative polarity, right? So I noticed this when I was working with one of my favorite spirits, Citri. When you were evoking the spirit, you're getting a lot of the positive effects from it, which is, attraction of the opposite sex. But what happens is, over time, that energy begins to balance itself out. So now the negative aspect, which is repelling, right, of the opposite sex, comes in to neutralize the spell. So what I learned from my studies is that when you're doing this ritual of evoking a spirit, you've got to bind the negative aspect. And this is where the angels come in when you're there's 72 goetic spirits. There's also 72 angels of the Shem HaMephorash. This is their purpose, to bind the negative aspect of that spirit.
And to bring balance in.
Yes.
That's amazing. So is there a specific angel that balances that?
There is. For every goetic spirit, there is an angel. For example,
that's amazing.
This is why I really recommend this book, Demons of Magic, by Gordon Winterfield, because the thing is, with these sigils, it shows you like the sigil of the spirit here, right, in the center. But if you notice in red around it, you see the sigils of those angels. Now, in the original Lesser Key of Solomon, it mentions that you put the name of Mikael around that triangle. And what that is it's constraining the demon. The book says, it's punishing and torturing the demon to force it to have your command. But we don't work that way. It's not emotional. This is energy. What it's actually doing is it's constraining the negative aspect of that energy.
Oh, wow. So it's bringing in kind of a stasis to that in case it comes out of balance. You have to keep in mind that binding. Oh my gosh. It makes so much more sense whenever you explain it like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That you're just binding one spirit to another spirit. So it's inside of your mind. You don't have an unbalanced architecture set up.
Yes.
That's
because
amazing.
if you don't do it this way, you're without a doubt going to attract the negative aspect of that energy, and it's going to neutralize it. See, for years I always figured, I've got power, I am standing in the position of God to command these spirits. I don't need any circles. I don't need to do this and that and the third. Well, it's not about fear. It's just about balancing this energy. That's what the circles and all this is about.
Yeah. That's one thing that I didn't understand in the beginning, and then I understood later on, is that whenever you actually use the circles and you use the things that, honestly, a lot of it seems kind of foolish in the beginning, or seems kind of embarrassing to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, why would I have to do this? I just want to think about this stuff, But whenever you actually just say, I don't care if I look crazy, and then you just do it, and you're doing these things, then you start to understand what psychologically it's starting to do to you and what it can do for you. And it's a completely different thing at that point.
Yes.
It's so exciting.
That's why I really try to take the approach of an occult scientist. Why, we can easily make this really scary. We can easily scare Christians and all these people. Oh, these dark, dangerous demons. But that's not what this stuff was created as. Okay, this is a system of dealing with psychic energy, astral energy, which everyone on this earth has access to. But just like martial arts or anything, it's a discipline that you've got to learn how to do it.
Yeah, any polytheistic society really will that's really what got me into this is I started studying like Hinduism.
Yeah.
Because of meditation.
Yes.
Because I was going through some things in my life, and meditation was definitely necessary. So I learned how to do that, and then after that, it was like, oh, I understood that, polytheism has a purpose. All of these different gods aren't actually gods in the place of the God.
Right.
They're aspects of the God. They're part of the divine, the Godhead.
Yes.
And why is it called a Godhead, for one? You know what I mean? It's your head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's so crazy. But once you realize that, then it stops being scary. And you realize that you're just talking to parts of yourself, and you're literally just talking to yourself. And it stops being so terrifying.
Yes. On the Godhead aspect, if you noticed with like the Egyptian pantheon, a lot of them are actually related to different parts of the body, right?
Yes.
I'm also dealing with the tunnel of Set, or even with the Goetia, a lot, and with the chakras and with the zodiac, these things are also attributed to different parts of the body, because these are energy currents that affect different parts of the body differently, and you can communicate with them. Right? Everybody has two minds, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Everything on this earth exists in duality. That's the dimension that we're in. So in order to have power, you've got to connect those ends. just like a battery. That's why the Matrix, the movie, said that we are batteries. The machine's not literally turning us into Duracells. It's using our connection of conscious and subconscious to create the reality that it wants, that they want, right? And I don't really believe and subscribe to the whole they or they're doing this to us, but just to put it in perspective, if you're not using your energy is being utilized.
Yeah, you said something about they.
Yeah.
I think that, these aren't new concepts. These are new to the everyday person. Yeah. But they're definitely not new concepts. They're actually very old concepts, and they've been carried through the ages by people in very high places, which is kind of interesting.
Yes.
Because, well, for one, it actually works. And for two, it seems like it could be scary, and you can get unbalanced and all that. But there's a reason why it's carried on for so long. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mainly because it works and because it's reality. I mean, I don't know if this is what you're getting at, but are you talking about like the archons and like Gnosticism and that kind of thing?
Sure. All of it. Kind of my whole train of thought is that there are a lot of different ways of approaching this, and a lot of the old ways of thinking, the polytheistic ways of thinking, do it the correct way. And it's weird how a lot of different societies have independently come up with the same thing in different ways.
Yes.
And then you get out of that a monotheism, which takes over the entire world and kind of disconnects people by force from the idea that, thou shalt not have any other gods before me. It's like,
that's one of the commandments.
What does that mean?
That's one of the commandments.
That's one of the commandments. And it's like, they use that to keep you from thinking about this, right? To keep you scared of approaching it in any way. But you can't be scared of this because it's a part of you. All these things are already inside of you, and if you don't address them, they'll start building up in ways that you don't understand, and they will affect your life whether you want them to or not.
Right. If you don't understand it, you can't fix it.
Exactly.
When I look at magic and occult type of practices, really it boils down to me as ancient psychology. This is how you deal with the energies of the mind and of the self, right? You got to know thyself, or you're just wandering around out here getting tossed to and fro by the sea of existence.
Yeah. That's why the Freemasons say know thyself.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing that they say is know thyself.
That's the paramount thing.
That's all that we have. That's our entire reality. Our source of reality is our mind. We're floating around as a consciousness, but okay. First off, we haven't talked about the real Trinity, the alchemical trio. There, the mercury, sulfur, and salt, the body, the mind, and the spirit.
Okay.
These three things are what forms consciousness, because and it forms you in quotations. You know what I mean? Because you are only the equivalent of whatever the balance is between those three things at any given time.
Yes.
And it's kind of an amazing thing. If your body is completely, I don't want to say out of shape, but if you have, hangry, for example, if you're hangry, your body doesn't have what it needs. It affects your mind. Yeah. And you can't communicate, logically by the things and the way you behave. And that just shows, being hangry is kind of an alchemical example of being, out of focus with one of those three things. Right.
I mean, you think a Buddhist monk gets hangry?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Those guys eat like 1 grain of rice a day.
Right. But see, look at levels of existence: the mind, the spirit, and the body. Most of the people that walk the earth now, their consciousness is focused in the body. So we're going to be slaves to the 5 senses, period. If you're not working on spirit, you are a slave to the 5 senses. every action that you do, every action that you perpetuate is motivated by your drive for needing to get sex, to eat, you know what I'm saying, to do this or that, to deal with the body. But the whole key of this practice of magic and occult and hermeticism and all that stuff is to elevate your existence into the spiritual realm first off, because the spirit controls the body, and then past that, the realm of mind, which is the realm of the all, controls everything below it. So if you're existing in the spirit, I mean, you're not going to, not only will you not be hungry, but you're not going to suffer the effects of being, you know, starvation, because the spirit will make sure that the body gets everything that it needs.
Yeah.
So many places to go with that, but I'm trying to stay in one lane.
Yeah, that's an entire episode in itself almost.
Yeah.
Man. So have you, here's a question that I wanted to ask you earlier. Have you ever tried to summon Lucifer's Rofa count?
That's a good question, and I always hear about how he's such a badass.
Yes.
So what I've learned to do is, before actually evoking a spirit, especially a powerful one like that, I try to build a communication, right? I get the sigil, I memorize it. I try to have like a spiritual discussion here and there. I mean, it's a lot like, you know, dating. Like, you see somebody, you start talking a little bit, you gradually work your way up. To answer your question, no, I have not. But this is an entity that I've been kind of conversing with here and there.
Yeah. I haven't either. Yeah. And it's because it's one of those that I think it is more interesting to read about than to actually need to do at this point in my life.
And the reason being, it's not out of fear, but it is because right now in my path, I'm focused on the Goetia, and I think that he deals a lot more with the clip-off. And earlier in my practice, dealing with the clip-off, I suffered great loss, which is going to happen if you deal with the clip-off. But it took me a while to realize the things that I lost were things that I didn't need.
Yeah.
Right. But by that time, I was already on to another subject. But I will be getting to that in the future. Most definitely.
So, manifestation is a thing that we kind of touched on earlier. What kind of experiences have you had with manifestation? And I ask that because somebody like yourself who understands or seems to understand the concepts about creating your own reality and about, you know, looking at reality, clearly, you know, you've probably had some experience with that.
Yes. I guess before I can actually say about my manifestation, right now I'm probably working with the most powerful team of spirits that I've been working with, and one of them in particular, Asmodee, has really been stressing the importance of astral travel, becoming proficient with that, and building your astral body. Because the thing is, these spirits don't exist in the physical. If you want them to, you have to, one, get something for them to manifest into, and two, have enough power to actually constrain them and bring them down here. All right. Yes. Now, I suppose that he's got me really focusing on the astral realm because of that. But when you also think about, on a different but related note, people who use psychedelics to have a spiritual experience, I don't really believe that that's the best way to go, because it's you get pushed all the way there, but you can't find your way back without the drug. It becomes a crutch. So I guess long story short, the physical manifestations that I've had have been while I was in another zone, and they weren't very pleasant.
Wow.
Yeah.
So hold on. Who manifested?
Well, aside from these named spirits, there's countless others that incorporate the legions of these spirits. Most of the ones that I've had manifested weren't ones that were written about in grimoires. I have manifested Lucifer before. Again, that was under the influence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, this show does have a mature audiences thing, but I wish that we could go into that. Maybe we could do it on YouTube sometime. We'll have an episode about psychedelics.
Yeah.
Because that is an entirely different experience whatsoever.
Yeah. It's
It wasn't until I had, I won't name what it was, but it grows outside.
exactly.
But it's, whenever I did that the first time, that's the first time I realized that there's two me's. And there's two inside of my head, that there's one, for there to be a consciousness, there has to be another one for it to bounce
Observe.
itself against. You know what I mean? You have to communicate with something. There has to be a mirror inside of there somehow.
Yeah.
And it, like, I just sat there and, like, mind blown. I was like, where did that information come from?
Yeah.
It was amazing.
That current of energy is speaking to you. But
Yeah.
it can really be romantic. Like, the mind is a pair of lovers, right? The conscious mind is the masculine principle, and the subconscious mind is the feminine principle. Masculine because the conscious mind is penetrating, it's seeking, it's trying to do things. The subconscious mind is the Garden of Eden, waiting for the seed to be planted to manifest what it is you need.
Yeah, it's a vast ocean.
Yes. Again, a feminine symbol, water. So the whole thing is, for us to do is to hook up, the dude with the female, so they can get together and create wonderful babies, wonderful manifestations in life.
Yeah, and they create the hermaphrodite.
Yes, which
the
exists
alchemical hermaphrodite
in all of us.
Yeah, which is that's balance. When you start to seek that in all things and see that in all things, you start to realize where real balance really comes from.
Yes.
And and then consequences don't seem like they're that surprising.
Yeah.
In many ways.
Yeah, being again rooted consciously in the physical body. Now we're dealing with hormones, right? As a male, you're situated on a certain train of thought. As a female, your mode of thinking is a certain way. But like you said, the spirit is androgynous, and if we move that consciousness up to that next level of spirit, the way that you go about life is totally different.
It's a really beautiful thing. I think that is why, unfortunately, the method of mind, the method of thought, I don't know, the religion that has been pushed has been a really masculine religion.
Yeah.
And there really isn't any room for balance. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's crazy how nobody really. It's crazy how nobody really notices that. Like, the Holy Trinity, which has existed before Christianity. You think about, what makes the Holy Trinity. You got the Father, you got the Son, but what's that missing piece that you need to have a son? You need a mother, you need a divine feminine principle. But they replaced that with a Holy Ghost, some mystery that we know nothing about.
Yeah, a ghost. They killed her.
She's dead, a ghost. Exactly. I mean, at least the Catholics have it somewhat right because they give due respect to Mother Mary. But I mean, this existed in ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt, many other ancient religions, Sumeria. There's the divine family, the masculine, the feminine, and the son, which represents the two parts of the mind and the manifesting principle. And the manifesting principle usually comes as the savior, Horus, Jesus, many examples you can find on Google.
Yeah, all of them, because they're all just, they're all called avatars or whatever. They're like perfect examples of righteous people, and it's because they have that balance between masculine and feminine, the unconscious and the conscious mind, the active principle, and then the nurturing principle, the one that's back there inside of your head that knows literally everything. Whenever I learned that inside of our head is every sensory impression we've ever had, stored, everything. That's where our dreams come from.
Yes.
Everything you've ever dreamed is something you've experienced in some way.
Yeah. The subconscious mind is a storehouse of information.
Yes.
And it's like, what do you say? Like stem cells, it's like Google. It's like the internet. If you know what to search for and what to seek for, that's how you get it.
And that's where the grimoires come in, because they teach you how to search for the things.
Exactly. Yes.
I have this weird, and I'll talk about it because we're talking about this stuff anyway. I'm not the kind of person who believes in like past life regression or anything like that. but I have this memory of being a little kid, like being like 3 or 4, because I remember which house we lived in. I must have been like 3 or 4. And I remember thinking, like, I having this dream of being in this castle and thinking, like, I built this before I was in my mommy's belly. And like, being an adult, looking back on that memory, I'm like, where did that come from? Like,
Yeah.
that thought had to have come from somewhere, and I'm not making it up. So it's got to be like, you know, maybe in some way, whenever we're children, we are more, since we haven't had very many sensory impressions, maybe we are more perceptive to the ones that are latent inside of our unconscious mind. And maybe they can manifest since we haven't kind of overridden them with a bombardment of other information yet.
Yes. Yes, and that could come from multiple different directions, but what really makes me think of is genetic memory, like we were talking about earlier. The subconscious
Absolutely.
mind is also connected to the genetic memory, which is
Yeah.
why it's easier for some people to pull these spirits out and put them to work. That's why some people come out of the womb proficient at playing piano or sports or math or whatever, because the subconscious mind has access to that genetic memory. And you may be in a past life, you know, had a castle and whatnot.
Who knows?
It's 11 o'clock.
Well,
I would like to think that I did. I mean, we all want to be that castle guy from Atlantis, you know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, there were fewer people back then, so it's a better chance, you know.
Yeah, I mean, don't they say that we were all related to like I don't know, 10,000 years ago, everybody was related to like the same person or something like that?
Yes, something like that.
Yeah, like the mitochondrial Eve,
Yes.
I think is who it is.
Yes. Now, I mean,
That's
of course,
pretty crazy.
down the line there were some divergences, but I mean, we really are coming back to a point where there's a lot of convergence. Uh, Reality works the way that it's supposed to. A lot of people see a lot of wrongs and injustices, and there are on the short term. But if you look at this in the greater scheme, reality is playing out exactly how it is supposed to. Nothing is an accident. This is a divine orchestra. There is no note that is out of tune.
Yeah, there's no note that can be out of tune. That's the thing. It's already set. Our perception forms reality. The fact that we're moving along the line is the only thing that plays the video of consciousness anyway in the first place.
Yes.
You know, the end of reality and the beginning of reality have already been set in stone at the very creation in the beginning, which doesn't exist.
Right. Again, back to the Ouroboros symbol.
Yes.
Spirits in the spirit realm, which is what the physical realm is modeled after, they exist in a current. The alpha and omega, the beginning and the end. When it connects together, it's infinite, right? So even though on the short term, things seem finite, but even this physical world is infinite. We're just too small to see both ends of that puzzle.
Yeah. So you said that the even this finite world is infinite.
Yes.
So are you referencing many worlds theory?
Not
Something
so
like
mu-
that?
Maybe not so much the many worlds theory, but history is completely incorrect.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a beginning, and I don't believe that the human beings that walk this earth have the power or the potential to destroy it. They may tell you that
Really?
on the news, but I don't think we're smart enough or powerful enough to do that.
I think that the idea of humanity, you say that history has been presented to us completely incorrectly. I think that it's really interesting. You know, we're presented with this idea that mankind, the way that it is, has been around for about 200,000 years. Okay? And what they've done studies that say that the world reclaims, like, let's say that if everybody stopped living right now, all the skyscrapers, all of the traces that we were ever here would be gone in about 10,000 years. It takes about 10,000 years for all of that stuff to be gone, right? So in 200,000 years, there could have been, 20 of those cycles? So there's been enough time for, like, us to get to this point, like, I don't know, 20 times at the very least.
20
and then
times.
we're supposed to believe that we've never had this kind of technology, that we've never
Right.
had these kinds of insights, you know? And now
Right.
I'm seeing more and more videos about the pyramids in Egypt being actual like energy resonators, like Tesla energy.
Yeah.
And there's actual studies that show that this is actually in fact true.
Yes.
And there's never been a tomb inside of the pyramids. Like,
exactly.
the world is a completely different place, and I think we're actually opening up to that. You know, there's more people thinking about it.
Yes, yes, and you can thank the stars for that. It's the age of Aquarius. This is the age that is signified and presented as the dude pouring out the water, right?
Yeah.
Because everything's coming out into the open. If you want to see it, you can see it. YouTube is an infinite tool. You can use that to just watch music videos all day, or you can learn, or you can create. You know, this information is out there, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to come upon some great discoveries, you know, very soon.
I'm not a Scientologist by any means, but I did read Battlefield Earth many years ago. And there's this part in the story where the main character gets basically captured by the aliens, and he's given a kind of a technology that's kind of like basically an iPad, and it has these discs where he can insert the discs and it plays videos, and it kind of like Matrix downloads these things into his head.
Mm-hmm.
And really what it is it's kind of like, you know, what we have right now with the internet and just being able to watch YouTube videos and learn about these things. So for like a long time, he just learns and learns and learns and learns about these things. He ends up like learning how to fly fighter jets and all this other old technology, and he learns about the way that things used to be, so he can like, you know, succeed in liberating his people from the way that things are.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an amazing story that I think that they made a shitty movie out of and kind of ruined it for everybody.
It kind of reminds me of how in the Matrix, when they you know, uploaded Neo with all the karate and kung fu and that.
Yeah, I know kung fu.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Well, Donnie,
Oh man.
I got a question for you.
Yes, absolutely.
Have you heard any weird news lately?
Any weird news? Oh my god. You know what? I don't think that I totally forgot to look up some weird news. This is hilarious. Oh, here, let me do it real quick. You know, I have been looking at strange things. Me and Vintendo, I don't know if you know about the Man-Child show, but my buddy Vin does a show called The Man-Child Show. And we do this thing on Wednesdays called Tendo Takeover, and we talk about things that are in the news. And we've been talking about basically every week it seems like somebody finds drugs inside fruit that's being transported. So there were bananas full of cocaine that was smuggled into prison. Cocaine and pineapples. No, there's marijuana in the bananas, cocaine in the pineapples. All kinds of stuff. You know, nobody's safe. The children are not all right. It's the terrible thing. I'm looking for weird news right now, though. So this will be good.
Well, I'm gonna be completely honest. That was my kind of segue to say I need to take a quick break.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, here, let's do this. Let's do a quick commercial break, everybody. We will be right back after this. We're with Travis Magus with LVX777 on the Magistry podcast.
Bless up. I'll be right back. Hold on.
All right.
Bathroom?
Hey, we'll be right back with Travis Magus.
To answer your question, though, the word was grimoire. Grimoire. And a grimoire is basically a book that contains different names of different spirits that you can potentially evoke. Yeah, Rainer Wells. What was the... Jama Starseed. Goonies Girl, the book that I showed earlier, was Demons of Magic. The author is Gordon Winterfield. Oh yeah, no problem.
All right, and we're back. Hello.
Hello.
Hi there.
What's
hey,
up?
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Magistry podcast. I'm Donnie Cockrum, and this is Travis Magus, and we're here talking about all kinds of cool stuff. You were just showing somebody a book there. You're live too, right?
Yes. And this was the Demons of Magic book that I mentioned.
Yes.
Yeah.
So who wrote that book?
The book is by Gordon Winterfield.
Gordon Winterfield.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, he does pretty good. I've been buying a lot of Goetia books from Amazon, and at first you'll come across a lot that are copy and paste, the same descriptions for each of the deities. But this one has a very unique approach to it. He basically just lists his experiences with the spirits, and sometimes they're a little bit different from what the original Lesser Key of Solomon talks about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be a little different for everyone.
Yes.
I think it's really great that even though it is different for everyone, you know, the framework is still the same for each one of these. You know, the architecture is set up inside of the mind for each one of these. So whenever you invoke these different names and these different qualities, you're really kind of putting yourself into a state of mind where you're able to kind of connect with that in those ideas, in that thought form, really.
Yes. I mean, really, the state of trance that you get into, it works kind of universally. You know, you can get into this trance to do your chakra work. You can get into it to contact any spirit. But you know, it really all comes down to stilling the mind. That's where meditation comes into play. to be able to tune out the chitter chatter that's in your mind so that you can hear the current of energy that you're trying to contact.
Yeah. What kind of meditation do you use?
I use a technique that's known as Vipassana. I actually went out to a Vipassana retreat, and it's like a 10-day immersion. And
Wow.
the long and skinny of it is you don't speak for 10 days. It's all volunteer and it's free. And you eat a certain type of meal, and you basically meditate for hours and hours all day. And they teach you, you're not thinking of anything. What you're doing is you're really paying attention to what's going on in and outside of your body. And in doing so, you really feel the separation of your spirit from your body. And when you do that, you can ease into the astral plane and really contact the energies that are out there.
Wow. So you get into or do you do this seated or do you do this walking? How does this work?
You can do both. Seated will have less distractions, but there was also walking meditations there where they had this little nature trail, and you walk and you pretty much get into the zone. Just observing what's going on in your body, your breath, the little hairs on your arm. The more in tune you can get with what's going on in your body, it's weird, the more you pay attention to it, the more you detach from it.
Wow. That's amazing. So how long does it take you to actually, 10 days is a long time to be doing this. How long does it take you from starting to be able to actually feel the detachment and say, oh, okay, there it is?
Yeah, the 10 days was really to teach the technique as slow as possible to really get it ingrained into your mind. But once you do it, it doesn't take long. Maybe 15 minutes.
Wow.
10 minutes maybe.
And was that your first introduction to meditation?
I was studying Buddhism for a while before that, and just doing research, I found that there was a Vipassana center near where I lived. So I figured, why don't I go ahead and try it? And what I learned is the experience was totally different from just reading about it, right? They talked about the different states that you reach and, this, that, and the third. And I thought I understood it. But, actually doing it was a whole nother level. I recommend it to anybody. Like I said, it's free.
Oh, okay, cool. So that's a retreat that's free. Where is it?
There's centers all over the world.
Wow.
There's a guy that's, his name is S.N. Goenka, Goenka. And he became a millionaire through business, and he found Buddha and got really deep into Buddhism, and he began to invest his money in building these centers all around the world. So if you just Google Vipassana, I'm sure you can find a center near you. You can book, they feed you, and they walk you through the path, and then you go home with a new meditation technique.
Oh, wow. That's great. Yeah. That's for free. That's an amazing thing.
It is.
So you are in, what state are you in?
Georgia.
You're in Georgia. So where did you find a Vipassana place in Georgia? You wouldn't think of Georgia or the South being somewhere that would be, I'm in Missouri, I'm kind of the buckle on the Bible Belt too. There's not a lot of those centers around here either.
Yeah.
Where do you find something like that?
It was like out in the country. I want to say maybe like a little town called Jessup or something. It was like way out in the woods. But when you get there, it's, they invested money in it. It's a nice little center. You go, they feed you, you just meditate, you sleep, It's very simple, very down to earth, no distractions, no phones. And what happens is you begin to just tune out of everyday life and focus on self and spirit. There's no discussion, there's no talking. It's just guided meditation.
Wow. So what do you wear to something like that?
You just bring comfortable
just wear
clothes.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Sounds like I'd probably wear a robe or something, to be honest. That sounds, if I'm not going to be talking and I'm just going to be meditating, I'm going to be wrapped in some kind of a really comfortable fabric.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I had my little cloak and whatnot. It was fun.
That's awesome.
And you see people from all walks of life, different religions, different, races and whatnot. It was interesting.
Mm-hmm. So how long was it before, from the point you started meditating to the point you started conjuring demons? How long was that? How long was that window?
I think that span happened probably within a year's time. I think right after I really stumbled across the Goetia and I didn't have much success. So I went into the Clip-Off and went back into Goetia and things like that. Really, when I look online and I search, I try to get to the center. I try to find the origin, right? Like when I read books, the way that I find these other books is I look in the bibliography and I see the books that inspired the author, and I buy those books. And I keep seeking until I can get to the original message.
Yeah, just going down the rabbit hole.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that got me started in this entire path, was doing that. I was going to a Christian college, and I was in this class called History of the Bible, of all things. And we were talking about literally the history of the Bible, where it came from, where the books came from, who wrote them, where the little pieces and fragments originated, the Q documents and the documents we don't even have anymore, all of this stuff that's just so far back in history, it doesn't even exist. And whenever I started realizing that we don't have the original documents for something that is literally driving everyone to kill people and to change laws and promote ideologies, all these things are based on things that aren't necessarily as concrete as I was led to believe as a young man. So whenever I learned about that, then I was like, oh my God, there's got to be other things that I have been misled about. So I started reading about other documents from back then, the Vedas and the Upanishads and different things like that. And it really I was in contact with Eastern philosophies and things. And then I realized that Jesus was basically taken from those philosophies because he's kind of an anomaly within the paradigm he was placed.
Yeah, he really kind of went against the grain, hence why they killed him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's definitely, I do believe that is a message. It's kind of a nod. You know what I mean? To people who know, if you get out of line in certain ways, then, things will happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing that happens throughout history. I mean, somebody stands up with the message of truth, and the system that they are placed in seeks to silence that message. I mean, it's still happening today.
Yep.
But that doesn't stop the truth from coming out.
It's true. The truth will always come out. Sometimes it takes things getting really, really bad until the truth does come out. But then whenever it does, it's actually, like really powerful and mighty. And it's kind of something to behold. We're at a point in history, I don't think we've been in enough time for anyone to ever remember of even stories of it. We're on a totally different cycle. Atlantis sunk underneath the waves, and I think that we're almost to the point where we're exactly that part on the wheel again. Yeah,
like what I was saying before about the Earth being infinite. The zodiac signs aren't just about what month you're born. It encompasses a much larger time frame. That's why we have the different ages, right? The age of Pisces is what we just came out of with the little fish symbol, which is why people have the Jesus fish on the back of their car. And even Christ himself in the Bible talks about how, after me look for the one carrying the water pitcher. It was allegorically speaking of the age of Aquarius, which is what we're in.
And that's in the Bible.
Yes.
Yeah. It's in it itself, and it talks about that.
Yeah.
And you're Revelation is also full of, it's just allegorical imagery just from beginning to end. All of it is symbolism. And it's almost the kind of symbolism that comes up from your unconscious mind. These eternal symbols, dragons and ladies giving birth and like different symbols of these different things. And then at the very end, Jesus, says it's done. And there's just a whole lot of symbolism within that story that I think people miss.
Yeah.
But I think that what people miss even more is that there's a lot of symbolism in the stories of like the Gospels that are just as powerful allegorically, that don't look like powerful allegories, because it's not a dragon
Yeah.
or things, you know, a whore or or things
Yeah.
like that. You know, it is Jesus saying, you know, look at the guy with the water pitcher who will come after me.
The Bible
You know,
is,
it's like, well, what does that mean?
it is filled with astrological symbology. I mean, hell, the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they're represented by the lion, the bull, the eagle, and the man, which is Aquarius, Scorpio, Taurus, and Leo. As a matter of fact, I got a book here. There it is.
Let's try this again, so maybe I won't choke this time when I'm drinking the soda.
As a matter of fact, I've got a book here that's called Stowe's Bible Astrology, and this really breaks down how even the path of Christ and his life was following the wheel of the zodiac. So I mean, it's not just a guess that we just had in the show. This stuff is based on the stars. The book opens up with Genesis talking about how I've given you the stars in the sky as signs and symbols of the times.
Mm-hmm. And then we just forget about that. And then we call astrology and astronomy these evil things. It doesn't make sense.
Right. What we're dealing with here is people's opinions. How people cherry pick different verses and things, and it actually turns a lot of people away from Christianity itself. I don't have a problem with Christianity. There's a lot of great things in that spiritual practice. The book of the Bible is right up here on my bookshelf with all the rest of these books, because there's still nuggets of pure gold inside of this book. You just have to know what you're looking for. It's not about condemnation and, you know, you're going to hell. It's a message of spirit to mankind.
I think that the fact that the Bible is it's not just one book, and I know it's a collection of books, but that's not what I mean. Like, it's a multi-layered, multifaceted text. So there's history, there's social, so like there's historical things, there's genealogies for these rich families.
Yeah.
There's also social things like social rules, and it's kind of like a law book as well.
Yeah.
So, and it's a spiritual book, you know, so it's like at least got 4 layers. And so it's these many things, and each one of these, you know, passages and each one of the contexts could mean one of 4 different contexts at least. And so I think a lot of it gets misinterpreted. There's a lot more spiritual information in the Bible than I think that the Bible gets credit for.
Yeah.
And there's also more spiritual things in the Bible than I think that the Bible actually really states in some ways.
Yeah.
I think some things get projected into the Bible that aren't necessarily there, that just get, at this point, you know, it's been 2,000 years or whatever they claim it is. It's at this point, we've come to agree, you know, by default that there's a thing called heaven.
Yeah.
But that's never really in there.
No, it's not. And it doesn't talk about the Antichrist really the way that we think it does. It doesn't talk about Satan the way we think it does. These are people's opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
El Shaitan. That was a completely different thing. It was an agent of God. It was, he went to and fro across the land looking for righteous people to challenge for God. It was...
Yes.
It's
El Shaitan.
Definitely not the devil.
Azazel, you know, the angel of death is in the Bible. It's, I don't know, people pick little names and things like that to use as a motivator to do good, I guess, to obey, basically.
Yeah.
Because you get people that aren't following the commandments and living the lifestyle out of their heart. They're living it because they don't want to go to hell. And that's not why this spiritual practice was created. But it's been turned into a tool of control.
Whenever you inject that, I was going to say, whenever you make it about hell or heaven, you just make it about control. You make it about controlling the fear in people's minds. Whenever you tell people that, you know, like you create this place inside of their head that they're going to go if they don't do something the right way, and then you tell them that, here, let me tell you the right way. You know, like, what is that except for complete control? See, the thing that I love about alchemy is that I believe that there's a little program. Each one of us is able to have a little program in our head. Mm-hmm. And the tiny, it's like a little gizmo is what I call it. And the little gizmo is kind of like a course of action, you know? And if you study alchemy and you use that process as your gizmo, you're probably going to come out the other side of your situations better, because you're going to know how to look at the things that you have that aren't working, break them down into their constituent pieces, get rid of the ones that aren't working, gather up the ones that are, smush them all together, put them through a process that makes them better, and then project that into something bigger than it's ever been. And then you become something else, and you're able to transform anything. And when you have that, you can apply it to anything.
Yes.
And it's the most amazing thing. And that isn't available within modern Christianity. It's just not. You're supposed to get forgiveness from Jesus, and he's the only way to salvation. And that is it.
Yeah.
It even says it.
In a matter of speaking, a lot of it is interpretations by the pastors. But
yes.
That alchemical process, I mean, really, if you understand the alchemical process and you look back at your life, you can see what stage you're in. You can see these things happening, right? You can see the stage of putrefaction and separation and getting rid of what you don't need and bringing it back together for the better you. And, you know, if you didn't really get there, you have to repeat the process. These things are written because they're patterns that happen to everybody. And if you learn the pattern, you can see where you are on this map of life and see where your destination is and get there a lot easier. It's easier to go through life knowing what's going on than to be scared and confused and lost.
And whenever you do this process, you can make your life whatever you want it to be. You really can. And, you know, I know that the people who are detractors, people who are skeptic of this kind of a thing, they're always like, well, you know, there's people in the world who, you know, they can't just think their way out of a bad situation. And, you know, that's right. You can't. You know, there are some situations where you are technically a victim of your situation and you cannot get out of it and whatever, you know, you don't have the power. But that's a power thing.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have the power to get out of your situation, then, you know, you are tragically a victim. But most people who have the power to change their situation can use magic and can go pretty much anywhere they need to go in their life.
Yes. Yes. Your situation that you find yourself in as a result of decisions that you've made in the past, right? And, you know, it may be unfortunate right now, but the sooner you take control of what's going on in your mind, the sooner you can direct yourself to where you want to be. The victim mentality is, hell, that's almost worse than fear and doubt, because the victim mentality takes the power completely out of your hands. Somebody else did this to you. Somebody else made you this way. So, I mean, what do you have now? What are you left with? You just, oh, I'm a victim, have sympathy for me. You're just going to perpetuate that.
You know, I think that the saddest part about the victim mentality is that everybody can be a victim in some way. Like, there is a way to say, like, everybody has been a victim of something, you know, and so it's easy to cling to that in some way, you know? And so whenever you make that the point of your whole life, you know, I understand that some people have like PTSD and different things like that, but, you know, there is a certain point where it is your responsibility to realize that, you know, your power is not external and the power of your life is not external. The power actually comes from within, and it is not only your ability, but your responsibility.
Yes.
To be able to take control of that, to make your life whatever it is, and you will never be happy until you do.
Yes. It is your responsibility, because depending on your actions, you're either going to be a blessing to other people or a burden to other people. And that all starts with you, not with what somebody did to you in the past. And that's not to belittle what happened, you know, whatever it may be. That's not to have sympathy or compassion for it, but you just got to look at the reality. What are you doing right now? And that's really the approach that I take with this magic. It's not to be cool. It's not to show off and impress people or scare people. It's about taking control of this battery in your soul that is attracting and repelling different energies. If you understand how this works, you have your hands on the steering wheel now. Yeah.
You really do. You got your fingers on the pen. You're writing the book.
Right. And when you first learned how to drive, you weren't, you know, Jeff Gordon NASCAR racer. It takes time to practice this and learn. And eventually, if that's what you want, you can be an expert at this. Or you can just learn enough to get what you want.
Yeah. You know, the fact that it is cool looking is just a side effect. You know what I mean? It's pretty funny. But, you know, I think that in some way, there is a kind of personality type that is naturally kind of attracted to occult things or hidden information, different things like that. So, maybe there is some kind of something to the idea that the aesthetic is tied to, kind of reaching out to those types of people who would reach for it.
Yeah, there's a place for everything, and in the beginning, that's one of the things that attracted me. Like I said, I got into it by listening to, like Slipknot and Marilyn Manson and all these scary things, that scared my parents and family members, right? It was cool.
Yeah.
But then I started to realize, oh, there's a little bit more to this.
Mm-hmm. Whenever you learn about the lyrics and you learn about like what they're talking about, and like Tool was one for me, sacred geometry and things like that. And that's really the first way I ever got into contact with those kind of ideas. Sacred geometry was, talking about, what's that, Danny Carey's drum kit.
Yeah. Or even like Mudvayne with LD50, that album. When you open up the CD, that's the one with Little Baby on it. When you open up that CD, it's got the Tree of Life in there, right? Their whole album was kind of like based on the premise of chemistry, like how it was spelled and everything with the capital letter, lowercase letter. When you open it up, you've got the Tree of Life, and it kind of looks like, a cellular pattern.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that I'm staring at the Kabbalah like 15 years before I even heard of the word Kabbalah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think music is a real strong way of initiating people into the mysteries. There was a dude recently, he was a rapper. I can't remember his name, but on his album cover, he had the Tree of Life. And I remember my brother showing it to me, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's such and such. And he's like, what? But yeah, music is a gateway to the sciences as well.
There's a reason that Christians are always saying that Lucifer was, their musician of heaven and all that, and he controls music and all that, and the most beautiful. It's because, people talk about Lucifer in a negative way, because Lucifer, at its purest and best intention, is a bringer of knowledge, and knowledge, unfortunately, is the thing that is going to destroy Christianity, because once you learn about it, you can't believe it anymore, because you realize that there's more to the equation than just that part.
Yes.
Because it's an incomplete story, and not everything is there as far as the nature of God at the top. It's an unbalanced hierarchy.
Yes. And just to clarify what I said earlier about the rapper, the rapper's name was Ab-Soul. That was the album. Thank you for pointing that out. Ab-Soul.
That's cool. Here, let me check that out.
Lucifer, the Lightbringer, also the archetype before that was Prometheus, or the snake in the Garden of Eden. I mean, you got these people that are living docile, just going with the flow, and then you have this entity that comes and brings this hidden occult knowledge, and it opens their eyes, and they literally cannot live in that system anymore. They can't, because they know too much. So of course, the system is going to punish that bringer of light. It's going to demonize that bringer of light.
Yeah, because it threatens it.
It threatens it.
Oh, dude, I'm looking at this. The album, the Ab-Soul album art with it not only has, it's got the alchemical symbols and all kinds of stuff in here.
Yeah, I think there was something with Doth. If you look where the sphere of Doth is, I think that's where his name is.
Yeah, it says Ab-Soul where Doth is, and it's got the ichthys.
Yeah.
That's cool. That shows that he actually understands it a little bit.
Right.
Which is cool.
And all the people that have never seen that before, are looking at this album cover. Again, it's a symbol, it's a sigil, it's talking to their subconscious mind, waking them up potentially.
Yeah. And then later on down the road, if they want to initiate themselves into it, they'll learn about it, and then a lot more things will make sense to their unconscious mind. That's the thing about our unconscious mind, is it stitches together things whether we know that it does or not. That's why sometimes whenever you just smoke certain substances, you can be like, oh, because you have these moments of self-realization, because your conscious mind for some reason had a little bleed over of the connections that your unconscious mind already made.
Yeah. Went ahead and made that romance possible.
Exactly. Because it's, got a mercurial spirit.
Yes.
You trying to save this?
Yeah. I was just talking about how when you showed me that Ab Soul album with the Tree of Life on it.
Me?
Yeah, it was years ago.
Oh.
But yeah.
Mhm. Well, man, thanks for coming on the show. We've been on here for over an hour now, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of wrap it up. But man, I really enjoyed having you on, and honestly, I could probably just keep talking all night.
Yeah.
Do you want to come on some other time?
Yes,
You
I
want
do.
to come on again?
Yes, I do.
Absolutely. Okay, I would have you literally anytime you want to come on, anytime you ever have anything to talk about. It's been really good talking to you. It's nice to be able to talk to somebody who has an understanding of the actual concepts and things, and it makes it a lot easier to tell the viewers out here things that they may not know and they may not understand, because it is kind of hard in the society that we have right now to sift through all of it, because there's a lot of bull crap out there.
Yeah.
And
Style.
I don't want to give people bull crap, man. I want to deliver the best non bull crap.
We passed
Right.
that.
Right. Like I said, we're past that.
Real
It's
talk. All real talk.
with all the information out there. I mean, you might as well come with the real stuff. You know what I'm saying? Where else are you gonna get it from?
Real talk. Hey.
But if I had one thing to say to people watching right now,
Yeah.
study, right? If you're having doubt, if you're not having success, keep trying. All right, this all depends on how far you're willing to go. All right, you're not, when you first learn how to ride a bike, you're wobbling, you're falling off, you need training wheels. You have to practice at it. It takes time. So just keep going. Keep studying.
If you could tell people one book that they should check out, that you recommend to initiate themselves into these kind of mysteries, what book would you recommend?
I would say find the book by Philip Cooper called, okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. But if I had to pick one book, I would say Basic Magic, because that's a book that takes out all the fluff and it's just straight how to access the subconscious mind, what magic is and how to use it. Now, of course, we can't just limit it to one book. I would say Basic Magic by Philip Cooper. I would say The Kabbalion, because that really lays down the 7 laws of how reality actually works. Basic instruction before leaving Earth. That's The Kabbalion.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to go to the next level and really understand the 4 elements, what your mind is, how everything works, if you're serious about doing this 100% full time, get the book called Initiation to Hermetics by Franz Barden. Them 3 books are all the books that you need on your library.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for coming on. And if people want to ask you questions, or if they have any questions about the things that you're doing right now, how can they get a hold of you?
You can go to Google and just search LVX777 like you see on the screen, or you can go to YouTube and search Travis Magus. I have a Facebook group called the Magus Society, and I mean, everybody in the group is just posting, just taking it 100% full throttle. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, LVX777, or Travis Magus.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'll see you. I don't know. Are you available next week? You want to come back next week?
Maybe,
if not, that's fine.
maybe.
We can talk about it later.
Yeah, I want to, of course I'm doing my study, but we'll talk about it.
Sweet. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you are just now, if this is your first time watching the Magistry and you're like, what in the world is this? Why am I following something I don't recognize? Well, you probably recognize me. It's Occult Arcade. We're called the Magistry now. It's a totally different thing, but it's pretty much the same. So thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to demystify the mystical for a new kind of magician right here every single week on Sundays at 9 p.m. Central Time and 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And tell all your friends about it or something. I don't know. Or don't. I'm not going to beg. All right. Thank you so much, Travis Magus.
Thank you, Donnie.
I'll see you guys later.
This was awesome. Thanks. Peace. Thank y'all for tuning in. I hope y'all enjoyed the show. I hope y'all learned some new things. I haven't been on YouTube lately because I've been getting into some deep study, really working with the Goetic Kings, really doing my thing. But I will be back on the videos. I got like 4 of them that I just haven't uploaded yet. I still owe y'all a video about chakra working, etc. But thank y'all for tuning in. Peace. How do I stop this?
All right, hold on. I had to turn my music off real quick. Okay, let me see if I can turn this on so I can